All right. So here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to say out loud. If you're over 50 and you've lost your edge, it's not your age. It's because you stopped training like a predator and started living like prey. Most people don't age out of greatness, okay? They opt out. They get comfortable, they get cautious, they confuse rest with retreat. And if you're a high performer, especially one with ADHD, you feel this deeply because your edge was never optional, it was survival. So let's dive in. All right. So today's episode is about how to sharpen it again and keep it, not with hype, not with motivational posters and sayings and Instagram little thingamabobs, but with systems, physiology, identity, and discipline. This episode is for, and if you're one of these people, this is definitely for you, professionals over 40 or 50 who refuse to become irrelevant. You want to keep providing, you want to keep being that apex predator in the office, okay? Executives, founders, leaders, creators, thought leader types. This is for you. ADHD high performers who still want to feel dangerous, who still feel like you got this. And anyone who knows deep down, I'm not done yet. I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still performing, and I'm still the best. So, all right, let's break it down. Let's start from the beginning. So, first of all, let's understand how we got here. So, the myth of decline, because it is a myth, the decline after 50. We've been sold this lie forever, which is that aging equals decline, that slowing down is normal, that fog, fatigue, and passivity are inevitable as we age. Let me tell you something, they're not, okay? What's normal is undertraining your nervous system, overstimulating your dopamine, losing muscle, and abandoning your structure. Age doesn't steal your edge. Entropy does. Okay? Let that sink in again. Age doesn't steal your edge. Entropy is what does. High performers don't decline because of time, okay? They decline because they stop imposing order. They allow entropy to creep into their lives slowly. And ADHD high performers, we feel this faster because chaos hits us way harder. We need order, we need organization, we need systems in order to thrive. So, which leads to another revelation or another realization, if you will, that I had, which is that it's this. The edge, having that edge and maintaining it, it's not motivation, okay? And it never was. It never was motivation. Let's clear this up permanently. Motivation is useless past 40 because motivation is emotional in nature. The edge, having that edge, that ability to outperform others, it's structural. If motivation worked, you wouldn't need discipline because you have motivation. You'd be motivated to work. Why would you need discipline? You just go out and do the thing. So your edge, you have to understand that your edge will come from structure, from order in the chaos. Things like, and this is going to sound dumb, but these are the things that work. Your sleep quality, believe it or not, your blood sugar stability, your strength and your posture, your hormonal balance, your dopamine timing, and your identity-based habits. Believe it or not, these are the factors that will keep you sharp. High performers over 50 don't feel sharp, by the way. They engineer that sharpness by utilizing the above that I just mentioned, okay? So, especially with ADHD brains, let me make a footnote of that or underline that. ADHD brains are very dopamine sensitive and novelty driven. So you need, again, that structure against chaos. You need these systems in place. So we've talked about this a lot in this podcast, but it bears repeating in case you're new to the podcast and this is the first time or one of the first videos that you've watched. So let's talk about dopamine, which is the silent edge killer, especially if you're an ADHD person. So here's the problem nobody in corporate wellness wants to touch, okay? Your doctor, your GP is never going to tell you this, okay? Never, ever, ever, if they're even aware of it. And even if they were, they wouldn't tell you. And it's this, that your edge is being murdered by cheap dopamine, which is found everywhere in our society. What am I talking about? Cheap dopamine sources. I'll give you an example. Endless scrolling on the phone, the news, notifications, endless stimulation everywhere you go. There's like, click here, do that, look at this thing. If everything excites you, nothing will motivate you. I'm going to repeat that because you need to internalize this idea. If everything excites you, nothing will motivate you, because ADHD, high performers, burn out not from work, but from unearned dopamine. And our world gives us free dopamine everywhere we look, in every shape imaginable. Okay. So the solution to this problem, to this dopamine issue, is not doing less, figuring out how you're going to earn your dopamine again. Okay, because in order for it to work for you, you have to earn it. It's the pursuit hormone. It allows you to pursue things, and pursuing is difficult in the moment, but when you achieve the objective of the pursuit, that's where you get your dopamine reward, and that's what will keep you like moving forward. So let's talk about some practical systems that you might want to consider to reset. And I'll just mention these. And we have videos on this channel that explain how to work with dopamine in detail, how to maximize it, how to optimize it, especially if you're a high performer, especially if you have ADHD, or especially if you're older. So, practical systems for you to consider. Dopamine fast windows. The ability to fast, believe it or not, can help you with regaining your dopamine. No stimulation before work. So don't have that cup of coffee before you start a task. Give it to yourself as a reward after you do that task, for example, to make a very basic example. Training before screens. If you're a person who already exercises, which you should if you want to keep your edge, both physically, mentally, spiritually, you should train before you start playing with screens, before you start doom scrolling, okay? And if you're in the gym, I strongly, strongly urge you to put the phone down. Leave it in your bag from the beginning of the session till the end, and maybe reward yourself after you're done with your training with a little session of, Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is that you want to do. But don't do it during, okay? Because you're going to kill the dopamine response that you're trying to earn with that training. Friction for entertainment, doing hard things. So rather than passively sitting there and watching Netflix, say, perhaps you go for a hike as entertainment. This sounds crazy, right? Like, oh, that's kind of effort. Yeah, that's the point. Having the little bit of effort as your entertainment, by the time you're done with that walk, hike, jog, run, you'll get that runner's high. That's dopamine. That's dopamine in your brain rewarding you. And it will allow you to start turning these things into habits that will make you again give you that edge back or keep that edge. Okay. The other thing, boredom tolerance, being comfortable being bored, sitting in a room in silence, for example, taking a walk in nature with nothing distracting you. These are important practices to help you reset your dopamine. I wake up every morning and meditate. I have this little blue light that casts it looks like I'm underwater. I wake up, I sit down, no coffee, nothing, just me and my thoughts for my first 5 or 10 minutes when I first wake up, to just reset that dopamine, to start that process. Okay. And then afterwards, I might then go grab a cup of coffee, start my cardio, whatever my routine is, So boredom, believe it or not, and I forget, I wish I knew where this came from, this quote, but boredom is the sharpening stone of greatness, somebody said. And in a way, if it's related to dopamine, they were right. All right. So another concept to wrap your head around. Okay. Strength is the physical expression of that edge, of your edge. And let's say this very clearly. If you're over 50 and you're not lifting heavy, or you're not exercising, you're not in physical good shape, you're voluntarily dulling your edge. You're literally taking the edge of your knife and you're dulling it and hitting it against a rock and making it blunt. Muscle is not cosmetic. It's not about the look, okay? That's a side effect. That's fine and good. Sure, being muscular looks great, but that's not important. Muscle is metabolic armor. Muscle will allow you to survive things that you otherwise would not. If you were ill, if something happens to you, if you have an accident. Muscle also gives you neurological confidence, okay? Strength training is literally the antidepressant that nobody prescribes. And I am convinced that in the future, you're starting to see it now. Even regular general practitioners who are always 10, 20 years behind the world as far as like coming up with healthy habits and promoting them. I mean, these are the people that had the food pyramid until yesterday, literally. You have to, they'll never tell you, but it's true. Even they're starting to realize that strength training, fitness, being fit, moving, having a base of muscle that is healthy, it's an antidepressant. So it's not just allowing you to survive and feel healthier physically, mentally, you also feel a lot better. So some benefits of, strength training or exercise as a whole or fitness. You're going to have increased testosterone and growth hormone in your system. Okay. And by the way, women have testosterone too. Okay. This is not just for the guys. This is men and women. You're hormonal. You're going to have better insulin sensitivity. Okay, your ability to process foods, your ability to have better nutrition, your ability to control your blood sugar, all of these things are related to insulin sensitivity, and it will improve with more muscle. You'll be capable of doing more with that. You could even reverse, theoretically, diabetes in many cases. But if you say a very obese person has sugar and blood control issues, as you lower your weight and gain muscle, you will probably, your A1C will drop, your ability to work with sugar and your insulin is better, and your insulin sensitivity as a whole will be better, which will provide better health outcomes for you. Another thing, let's face it, it's improved cognition. When you're fit, when you exercise regularly, your brain benefits from that too. And that means cognition. And we were talking about losing that edge. If you have better cognition, that makes your edge sharper, especially when you perform, be it in the office, in business, in life in general. And being sharper, more alert, having better brain function, better cognition, it's a weapon. Again, it makes your edge that much sharper. Another thing that you get out of the exercise and fitness piece is stress resilience. You get used to being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. You also gain a measure of tolerance towards stress that you otherwise wouldn't have. And the activity itself can help you also relieve stress. If you do have some built up stress and anxiety already in your life, believe it or not, training is a great release for that. There's a reason there's that joke about, like people saying like the gym is my therapy. Well, it kind of is for a lot of people. So consider that. And then the other part about, being strong and having muscle, based on muscle and fitness, is you will gain for sure an air of authority and presence, and people will notice and people will see that. And again, that authority and presence, that ability to project yourself. And I'm not talking about being arrogant. I'm talking about being self-confident, about being present, about taking up space. Okay. These things, this authority and presence is magnified 10,000 fold when you're fit, when you're strong. It comes naturally. You don't even have to try it. You walk into a room. I've always had the joke about the bicep vein. And the joke is this: when you walk into a room of 50-plus-year-old men and you're the guy that has that bicep bulging with that bicep vein, that's like driving. I've used this example often. That's like driving up to a high school reunion in a Ferrari. Okay. It means like, dang, this person means business. This person has discipline, and this person is able to achieve things on a long term that are not achievable by everybody and anybody. Okay. Because in order to get there to that level of fitness that's visible, you had to do something over and over and over and demonstrate that resilience. Okay. And all of this that I've just talked about is realized in a second, unspoken, the moment you walk into that room and you look fit and you look strong and you look like you're ready for the world. That's part of your edge. All right, moving on to other topics to kind of keep in mind in midlife. So hormones, energy, and the midlife wake up call. Okay. This what I'm going to talk about, people get a little uncomfortable with, but let's just dive in and let's just get into it because it's important to know. Declining hormones, that idea of declining hormones as we age, that it's natural, that's the thing that happens. That's not natural, okay? Hormones, when they decline, is because they're being neglected usually. And high performers, if you're a high performer, you're not going to ignore your physiology, okay? And we're not talking abuse. We're talking optimization. We're talking about monitoring your hormones, your hormonal balance, your energy balance, and being responsible and being observant of those changes so that you can take action when necessary. And the key systems that I want you to keep in mind that you should always be aware of and learn more about. And again, this channel has plenty of material regarding these topics. So I ask you, go through the catalog. This information is free. I put it out there for entertainment purposes and for education purposes. I'm sharing my experience. But anyway, the key systems that you should pass, especially once you're 40 plus, keep an eye on in order to not lose your edge are your testosterone, if you're a man especially. Your testosterone levels have to be healthy. I'm not talking about super physiological. I'm talking about just healthy, so that your cognition is good, so that it's cardiovascularly protective. I repeat, there are zero health issues and complications that come from testosterone replacement therapy done in a therapeutic way. Okay? And keeping your levels at a normal, optimal level. Again, because there's a myth out there that, somehow testosterone therapy is in some way dangerous or provides issues. This is not true. This has been proven over and over again to be completely false. TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, and hormonal replacement therapy done correctly in a therapeutic way are 100% safe. Okay? Another system to keep in mind, your thyroid. If your thyroid is out of whack, you will feel it. It'll be hard to lose weight. Your cognition will take a hit. You'll feel tired all the time. Sleep will not come easily. And when it does, it won't be restful. So keep an eye on your thyroid for sure. Another thing to be aware of, cortisol and your cortisol rhythm. It's normal for cortisol to spike in the morning, drops at night. There's a certain cycle that your body goes through. Keep an eye on cortisol, okay? That's the stress hormone. It also helps you wake up. It does have a function. So when it's out of whack, it definitely can have some very deleterious effects to your health. So again, keep an eye on your cortisol rhythm. Your sleep architecture and your sleep habits, your sleep hygiene. Nothing will wreck you faster, no matter if you have everything else dialed in, but you can't sleep correctly and get the rest and recovery you need. Nothing will harm your health as quickly and insidiously as sleep. So again, make sure you understand your sleep structure, your architecture, and that you have the proper sleep hygiene habits to maximize and optimize your sleep. Again, plenty of videos on this channel about that. Okay. Look into those deeper dives and definitely work on optimizing your sleep. And the last thing, be aware inflammation control. Okay, be aware of inflammation in your body. Understand what the markers for those are. You can talk about this with your general practitioner. There's many ways to measure the inflammation in your body, and it's really important because inflammation overall can lead to a variety of very negative health outcomes if left unchecked. Be cardiovascular, renal, mental. I mean, your fatigue levels, endurance. Inflammation can manifest as negative side effects in so many ways. So being aware of your inflammation and being able to control it and understand how to mitigate for inflammation is key if you want to keep your edge after 40. You basically, okay, here's the brutal truth. You can't mindset your way out of low testosterone or out of any of these things I've mentioned. These are physiological things that you can keep an eye on. There are laboratories that can help you with most of these as far as markers go. Keep an eye on those. Ask your general practitioner, or your doctor. A lot of them work with a functional medical professional. A lot of GPs are not aware enough to be looking at these things for you. You're going to have to be proactive. You'll have to become the CEO of your own health, basically. It's what I've always told people. You know, your doctor is not the CEO of your health. You are the CEO of your health. Your doctor is a subject matter expert that you pay to give you advice and an opinion, but ultimately decisions are yours because it's your health, it's your body. You've got to take care of it. Anyway, moving right along. Another thing for the to keep in mind in order to keep that edge, structure is always going to beat willpower. And this is like the ADHD edition, I guess, but it works for everybody. Structure beats willpower to keep your edge. And this is where a lot of high performers fail, okay? They rely on self-control and doing everything themselves rather than understanding and creating systems that they use in order to maintain that edge and be more efficient. So what am I talking about? So ADHD brains, for example, which is what I'm familiar with, this is my topic area. They require rigid routines, external structure, non-negotiable training, and identity reinforcement. We need these four things, these guardrails, so that you remove extraneous decision-making and you allow that ADHD brain to do what it does well, which is solve problems and do its thing. You don't rise to motivation, okay? Motivation is not what's going to give you that edge. You fall to structure or lack thereof. Keep that in mind. Keep that saying. You don't rise to motivation, you fall to structure. So think about your anchors, the concept of anchors, things that you do, habits that you do in your system as you develop these systems of behavior that you can repeat over and over and you can rely on. These are the guardrails that you create, right, in order to retain that edge. So there should be morning anchors. These are the things I do every morning. I was talking about the dopamine reset meditation. That for me works, you know. I do morning fasted cardio every single morning. That's another morning anchor that helps me start my day and helps me like kind of focus. Training anchors, again, going to the gym. I go to the gym. In my case, I go a lot because I enjoy it. But let's say you go 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's an anchor. That is a habit that you repeat. That is a repeatable, beneficial habit that you will repeat over and over and eventually becomes an anchor when you repeat it often enough. Protein anchors, your nutrition. Are you hitting that minimum protein? Do you understand the basics of nutrition? Again, plenty of material of that in this channel as to how to optimize your nutrition. But definitely, nutrition can be an anchor. I usually eat these things this way in order to stay healthy. It doesn't mean you have to be like super rigid and you can have a cheat meal, I guess, or a non-structured meal to celebrate. And life, you know, gets in the way, but you can plan for these things. But overall, your nutrition should be almost on repeat because you figure out the things that work and repeat those things, whatever they are. And then basically, what you're trying to do overall with these systems that I've described is you're removing choice, you're removing uncertainty, okay, and giving yourself a clear path without having to like waffle and analysis paralysis yourself into inaction or making the wrong choice. So you're removing choice. You're removing debate. You've decided already these systems are positive for you and they are beneficial. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to debate it. You know it. That's why you chose these systems and why you've enabled them in your life. To maintain your edge, you know that you have to do these things. So there's no debate there. And then finally, it's to protect energy because every time you have to make a decision or overanalyze, you're burning energy, be it willpower energy, physical energy, mental, spiritual energy, because you're waffling, you're not sure which way to go. So by having these systems in place, you conserve your energy for doing the things that you know you're going to have to do, or the things that you enjoy doing instead. But what you're doing is not wasting energy. So identity, which is the final layer of the edge that we've described so you can keep that edge of yours. And here's the real truth. Your edge is not physical. It's identity-based. When someone sees themselves as, I'm still dangerous, I'm still capable, I'm still responsible, their behavior aligns automatically because that's your identity. That's what you are. So your behavior will start aligning to that, what you are, to that identity that you've described and chosen and that is now part of you. Your behavior will just align automatically. So think of this quote. So men don't fall apart because they age. They fall apart because they stop being needed. And this works for women too, men and women. You fall apart when you're not being needed. If you're not being needed, you're irrelevant. That's when your edge disappears. But if you're vital and you're relevant and you have a purpose and an identity, you can't be stopped. The edge remains. Okay. High performers over 50 have to choose responsibility instead of comfort in order to maintain that edge. And your edge sharpens when, think about this, like I said before, when other people depend on you, when you hold your own standards and you don't deviate from those standards, when you refuse to be mediocre, okay? When you choose the higher standard, when you train like it matters, like you're not just going through the motions of, oh, here I'm at the gym and just moving the weight and then I'm going home. I'm already thinking about Netflix. No, you're training like it matters. You're there, you're present. These four things, people depending on you holding your own standards that are high, and refusing to be mediocre, which again is a way of holding those standards, and then training like it matters, taking care of the physicality also, that's how you help keep your edge with that identity. And that's what forges your true identity, because this is who you are now. And the edge is part of what you are now. So, closing statement. Now, I've thrown a lot of stuff, hopefully, that will make you think about things, and hopefully there's some actionable items here for you to work with. But think about this. The edge and keeping your edge is a daily choice. And let's land this thing really clearly. You don't lose your edge again. You stop feeding it. Okay. And the good news, though, is that it comes back fast when you act like it matters, when you pay the attention it deserves. Okay. A sharp blade doesn't apologize for being sharp. Neither should you. Okay. So keeping your edge. If you're over 50 and you're still hungry, still restless, and still driven, that's good. That's really, really good. That's not a flaw, okay? That's a responsibility. And that, by the way, is the Rise 41 mindset that I'm trying to promote in this channel. And it is this. 4 things. Discipline over dopamine, strength over comfort, systems over feelings, and purpose over passivity. You're not done. You're not late. You're just getting precise. And that is how you're going to keep that edge from your 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond if you want to. All right. Hopefully, if this episode hit a nerve, that's not an accident. That's your awareness kicking in. And awareness without action is just entertainment. Okay. So if you're a high performer over 40 or 50, especially if you're wired with ADHD and you know you're capable of more, but you want structure, you want some precision, you want some accountability, this is exactly why Rise 41 coaching exists, okay? It isn't generic fitness, it isn't motivational fluff. This is about human optimization for people who refuse to decline, for high performers who refuse to become one of the many. We work on discipline and structure for ADHD and high performers. So if you're an ADHD high performer, this is for you. Strength, body composition, and energy after 40 and 50, especially like I did. I changed my life in my 40s. I'm in the best shape I've ever been. Dopamine regulation and burnout proof systems. We help you learn the mechanisms you need to learn and the habits that you need to learn in order to improve your dopamine regulation and turn that into your own weapon rather than be a victim of it. And then physiology, mindset, and execution, and how they all work together in order for you to achieve your goals. Again, be they physical, mental, spiritual, professional, business-wise. So if you want a private coaching consult, go to Rise 41. We have the links underneath. Book a call. The first one is free. The first 30 minutes are absolutely free to see if we are part of it is to see if we are a good fit, right? To see if our method and your personality are something that gel. Again, I work with high performance individuals and people with ADHD or both. So let's get to know each other and see if there's a fit here. And if there is, you can absolutely, we can continue a conversation from there and talk about coaching and what that entails. So if this episode brought value to you, please subscribe to the channel. The channel isn't about motivation. It's about standards. We're going to have new episodes coming on about, high performance after 40, ADHD optimization, discipline, strength, longevity, why most people decline and how you don't. So again, subscribe, stay sharp, stay dangerous, okay? Because your edge isn't gone. It's just waiting to be trained again. Let me help you with that. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Again, click like, subscribe, ring the bell, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you for your time and attention.